I'm only a few weeks away from firing my largest rocket motor yet, but there's one last thing I need to build, the test stand. This is where the motor will sit during its static fire, holding it down so it doesn't go anywhere and also connecting all of its electronics and sensors. Turns out it took a lot more work than expected, so let's get started. If you're new here, for the past several months I've been designing and building my largest rocket motor yet, MEGAx. Designed to produce 500 pounds of thrust and a total impulse of 5,000 Newton seconds. This motor is no joke, over 2 feet long, 3.5 inches in diameter, and over 17 pounds fully loaded. Currently, the motor is fully designed, I've cast the propellant, and also built the blast chamber. This is where it will be fired in, but more about that later. If you haven't watched those videos yet, I highly recommend you do. The links will be in the description. With a motor this large, we need to make sure it stays put during its static fire. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be a static fire. That's where the test stand comes in. Its main job is to safely hold the motor in place while it fires, absorbing the thrust and forces it produces. The test stand also acts as a foundation for all the sensors. Things like a load cell to measure thrust, pressure transducers inside the chamber, and even temperature probes. And honestly, a static fire doesn't mean much if you don't get the data. All of this data helps you understand how the motor actually performs in the real world compared to your simulations. Whether the burn is stable, if the pressure stays within limits, and the nozzle and casing can handle the stress. It's the point where design meets reality, where all the calculations and simulations get put to the test. This is why data is so important. Now that you know what a test stand does, let's take a look at the one that I built for the SN series and go over what worked and what didn't. This stand successfully fired 5 different motors with a total of 13 static fires. This test stand was pretty simple. I built it using a bunch of 2x6s. To get the motor to fit securely, I drilled a hole straight through 2 of the wooden pieces. Then I added 2 legs so it would sit firmly on the ground. After that, I inserted a bolt through the bottom. This allowed me to thread in a load cell and keep it locked in place. Other than wiring up the Arduino, that was basically my first full test stand. There was also another variant of this test stand used to fire SN2 in its flame trench. I won't go too much into it because it's basically just a flip version of the original test stand. Overall, this test stand was great. It was cheap, simple to build, and reliable. It was able to fit all 5 motors and never had any structural failures. There were a few downsides though. The biggest one was that the stand could only fit 1 motor size. Because the holes were directly drilled into the wood, there was no way to adjust for different motor diameters. Also, during the first static fire, there were some oscillations of the motor. This was because the hole was slightly oversized to let the motor slide in. That small gap allowed the motor to move around a bit during the firing, which is not good. To fix this, I used shims, and later made a plastic ring that held the motor tight. I also made many modifications to this test stand over time. One of the biggest upgrades was for SN4. This was my first motor to use a pressure transducer. To make sure the pressure transducer didn't interfere with the load cell, I designed a load cell adapter. This allowed the motor and pressure transducer to interface firmly with the load cell without messing up the readings. Although this test stand worked great for the SN series, MEGAx requires a much more robust test stand. Now let's take a look at how this test stand was designed. I need this test stand to do 4 main things. First, it must be strong and robust. MEGAx will produce around 500 pounds of thrust, even more in the future. Second, it must be adjustable and modifiable. If I ever want to add more sensors or make this test stand larger, I should be able to. Third, it must interface with all the sensors. It should have proper mounting points for the Arduino, load cell, pressure transducers, and more. Fourth, it should secure the motor. This motor cannot move at all because that would not be good. To make this test stand strong, I'm using 4040 T-slot extrusion. This stuff is amazing. It's very easy to assemble, strong, and extremely reliable. T-slot comes in a bunch of different sizes, but I went with 4040 because it's not too small, but not too big. It's all put together with T-slot nuts, bolts, and 90-degree brackets. This directly ties into adjustability and modifiability. T-slot is basically made for this. It's infinitely configurable. And most importantly, it needs to secure the motor in place. For that, I'm using an M6 threaded rod with a 3D printed end cap to clamp against the motor body. These clamps let me lock down the motor firmly while still supporting multiple different motor dimensions, something my last test stand couldn't do at all. Once we build this test stand, I'll get more into the data retrieval hardware and how everything interfaces. Before we build this test stand, a quick thanks to JLC CNC for supporting this video. They supplied the high quality CNC parts you're seeing for this build. I've used JLC CNC on multiple projects now, and they've been solid on both part quality and turnaround time. Whether it's a one-off prototype or a batch run, their parts hold up and the tolerances are excellent. Their site makes ordering painless. Upload your part, get an instant quote, and place your order in minutes. You can order a single piece or scallop for small production runs without a headache. One thing I really like is that they actually check their parts so they come ready to use. Plus, their customer support has been quick to respond whenever I have questions on materials or finishes, which is something I value as being someone constantly experimenting with new designs. If you prototype, machine, or build in the garage, their service saves you time and keeps costs reasonable. I'm honestly really impressed on how these parts came out for MEGAx's test stand. If you want to try them out, use the link at the top of the description. Thanks again to JLC CNC for helping make this build possible. The assembly of the stand was pretty straightforward. Some of the T-slot pieces came pre-cut to the exact size I needed, but a few I need to cut down to size myself. After all the pieces were cut, I started by building the bottom section first. Working with the T-slot was a bit of a learning curve. I had to plan out exactly where each nut needed to go before tightening everything down, because once the two sections were fully assembled, it was impossible to slide any more nuts in. I definitely learned this the hard way because I need to take a few pieces apart to add in the nuts I forgot. I also added a few extra nuts in advance for some custom CNC parts I'm getting later, so I wouldn't need to disassemble everything again. Once the base was done, I installed 4 long vertical pieces on each corner. After that, I added the first level of horizontal T-slot to tie everything together and square it up. Then I built the top level, connected the whole structure together, and tightened everything down. To keep this motor from moving around inside the frame, I drilled and tapped 8 M6 holes around the second and third layer of the stand. Metal M6 rods will be threaded into these holes and clamped against the motor to lock it in place. I did a few tests because I actually wanted these rods to flex a little bit. There's no way to perfectly center these holes in the T-slot, and the motor itself will never sit perfectly centered either. That little movement allows the rods to naturally bend into position and line up perfectly against the motor sides. On the ends of the rods, I'm using a 3D printed contour piece that perfectly matches the curvature of the motor. I tapped these prints so the rods can screw directly into them. To mount the motor to the test stand, I first add some double-sided tape to the printed parts. Then attach the print to the motor and thread the rod in. Overall, this frame used 27 feet of T-slot, 44 corner brackets, and 88 bolts and nuts. Now that the frame is complete, we can move on and start adding all the electronics. Now that the frame is complete, it's time to add in the load cell, pressure transducer, and Arduino. It's not as simple as just dropping these components in. They need proper hardware to mount them. Starting with the load cell, I need to custom design a plate so I can securely mount it to the base of the stand. After designing the part, I 3D printed it to make sure all the bolts would line up correctly. This part needs to be made from metal since all the forces of the rocket will go through it. I also ran a few load simulations on it, which was definitely overkill but fun. I also need to design another part so the motor could attach to the load cell and leave room for the pressure transducer. I also simulated this part too. Once I received the parts, the assembly was straightforward. For the load cell, I'm using a 500 kilogram button style load cell. I like this form factor way more than the S-type I used on the SN series. For the pressure transducer, I'm using a 1600 PSI 1/8 inch MPT transducer. This is the exact same model I used for the SN series, just a higher pressure range rather than 500 PSI. Once those were added to the test stand, I mounted the Arduino and cleaned up the wiring. It looks a little messy, but I didn't want to cut any of the wires short in case I decided to move things around later. The Arduino is running basically the same simple code I used for my SN series. The load cell is routed into an amplifier module where the Arduino reads it and logs it onto an SD card. The pressure transducer has its own built-in amplifier, so it just needs to send a 0 to 5 volt signal directly to the Arduino analog input, and that gets logged onto the SD card. I'm also adding 3 thermocouples to the setup so I can track the casing temperature and better understand the motor's reusability. Aluminum can lose its temper at high temperatures, and this greatly reduces the strength of it. I'll be placing these thermocouples at the top, middle, and bottom of this casing. This will give me some good data on how hot the casing gets, and then I can calculate how strong it is. As of recording this video, I've received all the components and doing some preliminary tests. Calibrating the load cell and pressure transducer are very important. I calibrated the load cell with multiple known weights, and I calibrated the pressure transducer at different pressures using an air compressor and this apparatus I made. I'll also double check these calibrations right before the static fire. Finally, once the casing was mounted to the stand, I ran a few load cell tests. I wanted to make sure the rods holding the motor weren't resisting the motor and preventing it from pushing down on the load cell even at low forces. And here's how the test stand looks, fully complete. There is one more test I want to do. I want to see how this test stand fits in the blast chamber and if I'm still able to move around with it down there. It was a bit heavy, but still manageable to carry down. Once I was down there, it was a little tight, but definitely workable. I'll also need to drill and install metal rods in the concrete so I can bolt the test stand down. Since you can see it's a little wobbly. I really hope you enjoyed this video. The last thing is to finish putting this rocket motor together and doing its static fire. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. We have a lot of fun things coming. I'll see you in the next video where we'll be assembling this rocket motor.
This is Maya's guide to being successful. Step 1, like this video. Step 2, comment any questions. And 3, the golden rule, subscribe for more.